The judge at the center of the school mask trial here in Florida rules in favor of the families and against the state of Florida, particularly Governor Ron DeSantis banning school mask mandates here across the state of Florida. The decision a victory for local school boards and the parents who filed suit against the governor. Hey there, folks. JB Buno here with you live on WFLA Now, alongside WFLA political anchor Evan Donovan, who's been listening to every moment of this trial. Again, a decisive victory here, though an appeal. Evan, we were just talking about it a moment ago.
Almost guaranteed.
Almost guaranteed here. What's the latest here with Judge John Cooper's decision?
Well, where do we start? Okay, so I guess the important thing to let you know about is the crux of the case, which is that the governor issued an executive order in July referencing the Parents' Bill of Rights, which was a law passed by the legislature during this past session. He said that Parents' Bill of Rights gave parents the right to decide whether or not they want to mask their children. In a bit of irony, just now, Judge John Cooper ruled that they're effectively, the defendants, Governor Ron DeSantis, only enforcing part of that Parents' Bill of Rights. And that he said the law specifically authorizes school boards to issue something like a mask mandate as long as they have the opportunity to defend themselves in a court of law through due process to explain why a mask mandate or any other policy is reasonable, it's the least restrictive method, and that it's narrowly tailored to achieve a specific goal. So it turns out the law that the governor was arguing gave parents the right to opt their kids out of a mask mandate is actually what the judge used to say, no, that's completely not true. He found the governor exceeded his authority. He ruled for the families on 2 of their 6 counts, and we could go a little bit more into detail on that in just a moment. But effectively, this is a win for school boards and families. The school boards who have already put mask mandates into place without a parental opt-out, this will allow them to do that. The judge's order won't take effect in law until it is officially drafted as a written order, which he expects to put into the record on Tuesday. It was an odd thing that he did, but a lot of things were odd in this case. This case went from filing to trial in 3 weeks. That is unheard of. I mean, look, the law statutorily gives the other side, the defendants, 40 days just to respond to the filing of the lawsuit. So the fact that we had a filing, a response, a motion to dismiss, and then an entire trial within the span of 3 weeks is completely insane.
And really, the school mask mandate that we're talking about here really is just only about a month or so old. All of this really,
School's
Evan,
only a month old.
Right. We're in the opening weeks of school here in Florida.
I think in some parts of the country, they don't go back, in a lot of parts of the country, they don't go back until the day after Labor Day, right? So there are some schools that probably haven't even started yet. Obviously, that was the reason for the expedited trial, because there's just not much time here, and they want to make sure that they are either protecting kids or allowing, whatever argument you want to make. They wanted to make sure they got to a result quickly because schools had just started.
Let's get to some of the questions that are coming in here in the Facebook Live comment section. They're starting to file in here really slowly, but let's explain how this works for folks. Yeah. A lot of folks joining us here on Facebook Live, here on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, use the hashtags that you see underneath Evan's name on the right side of your screen, my name on the left, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyEvan. We can feature your comment. What do you think of Judge John Cooper's decision? What do you think of masks here in the state of Florida as far as mandates with limited opt-outs only for medical reasons? We want to get to some of your comments here because this is a pretty big decision. Again, appeal likely looming, undoubtedly looming here, Evan. But let me ask you the first question
and
here.
Several other cases going through the courts right now as well, so we're going to hear more about this.
Let me ask you this question here first, because I know it's going to likely become, what does this mean for school mask mandates right now here in the state of Florida?
If your school district has issued a mask mandate, you no longer have the ability to have a parental opt-out. That will be the case starting on Tuesday when the written order is entered, unless there is a stay. But basically, the judge tipped his hat that he wouldn't grant a stay. So effectively, once the written order is entered on Tuesday, school districts that have mandated masks will no longer allow a parental opt-out. Now, there's always a medical opt-out. I mean, there's not an opt-out. There's a medical exemption for almost everything in life, right? I mean, no matter what the rule or the law is, no matter where you go in this country, if you have a medical reason to not adhere to it, almost always you can get that taken care of through a court of law or through a doctor's note, et cetera. Because obviously your health is different for every person, and that's why there are exemptions like that for medical situations. But there's no longer a parental opt-out where you could simply raise your hand and say, as a parent, I don't want my kid wearing masks. As an example, we heard stipulated into evidence earlier in this trial, a mother whose child goes to Plant High School here in Tampa, one of the best high schools around. She said that through a public records request, she had discovered 1,206 parents, so just over 1,200 parents, had opted their kids out of the mask policy. That's half the school. So this will be a significant impact on a lot of schools and parents and children.
Let's get to really quickly. Want to flash this up here on the screen. A lot of hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyEvan questions and comments here reacting to this big decision by Judge John Cooper here in Florida. Really quickly, want to flash this up here for just a moment. Our preliminary results of our interactive poll here. Do you agree with the judge's decision? 61% right now saying yes, 39% saying no. We want to get this vote count total a little bit higher. So
how many votes so far?
We're at 707 votes exactly.
Yeah, we can get a lot more than that.
We can do a lot more than that. You'll see the bar graph icon. It usually takes about 3 to 5 minutes from the moment that you join us here on Facebook Live for that poll to pop up. Sometimes it's a little bit faster than that. But if you join us here for several minutes, you'll be able to vote in our interactive poll. And these these results here updating here live on your screen. Let's get to some of the questions and comments that are coming in here. Everybody here in the Facebook Live comment section. Again, if you're just joining us here, everybody, you can use hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyEvan, and we can animate your comment here on screen. Let's get to Kathy here. Kathy Bonner, hashtag HeyJB. Absolutely agree with the judge's decision. How about Stephanie Amato here with a question? Hashtag HeyJB. Does that mean parents have no say if school districts start mandating COVID vaccinations? Now,
you already don't have a say in that.
Right.
I mean, your child is already required to get certain vaccines to go to school. If it came to that, there's already a lot of precedent in law that the vaccination requirements from local school districts are legal and constitutional. Whether that applies specifically to COVID, obviously, I'm sure that would be adjudicated in a court of law. I'm sure that you would see multiple court cases about it. I'm just telling you what the precedent is. There's a reason why when you go to school, in order to get into a public school, you have to have certain vaccinations for your kid. Again, there are situations where medical exemptions are allowed, of course, as we discussed already. But for the most part, there's a lot of precedent in law for your kid having to get a vaccine.
Evan and I are, of course, here in the Tampa Bay area. This is a story that impacts districts, really, I mean, the entire state of Florida, parents, families across the state of Florida, school districts across the state of Florida. But we're here in Tampa Bay. Let's take a moment here, Evan, just to focus on Hillsborough County schools. Sure. How big of a decision is this by Judge John Cooper as far as Hillsborough? Hillsborough, one of the districts that said that the school mask mandate with opt-out, parent opt-out, wasn't enough. They went a step above that and said that the only opt-out available to students or to parents and guardians is with a medical with a medical reason. So how big of a decision is this for Hillsborough County Public Schools?
Pretty big. I mean, look, as I just mentioned, and I have not checked those numbers, but Damaris Allen, one of the plaintiffs, a mom of 2 kids in Hillsborough County, one of whom goes to Plant, said that through a public records request, she found out 1,200 parents had opted their kids out of the mask policy. That's half the school. I don't know what the numbers are at the other schools. We certainly probably have FOIA requests and Sunshine Law requests getting those out. But my guess would be that there are quite a significant number of parents who have opted their children out, and this will not allow them to do that anymore.
Again, you can read the latest, folks, on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, all of Evan's reporting there. It's going to be updated here because there's just so much here. Sam Sachs, of course, our digital data reporter here, also contributing to some of our content for you on WFLA.com. Let's kind of rapid fire. There's a lot of comments now coming in here on Facebook Live here, and Shannon here saying hashtag HeyJB. I believe this is still infringing on parent rights. There should be at least a parent opt-out. So Shannon here disappointed by the decision, as is our next commenter here. I cannot pronounce that name. I can't. There's some names where I'll try. I don't know how to pronounce that one, but maybe Brigilda. We'll go with that. Hashtag HeyJB. This is crazy. We as parents, as U.S. citizens, should have the freedom to choose as we like.
But remember, to that comment, remember, there are a lot of instances, and the judge gave a lot of them today, where you don't have the ability to control what your kids do at school. For example, the judge gave an example today that a local school or school board could say that, kids who go to high school, who bring their cars to high school, can't leave campus, right? That if you want to have lunch with your kid every day at home, they don't want them to do that because of, danger, because they want them to stay out of trouble, et cetera, whatever it is. His point was that the governor can't just blanketly ban schools and school districts from making a policy like that, that they would have the right to make a policy like that as long as they can defend it in court as being, reasonable, as having a justified basis in compelling state interest, and that it was narrowly tailored, and, for example, that it didn't last forever, right? So there's a lot of instances where, think about, he compared it obviously to dress codes at schools.
There's some comments in here about dress codes as well. There's plenty of places
where you don't have the ability to direct what your kids do when they go into public spaces. When they go into schools. That's also true in larger society. You don't have the right to impose your will on others in public spaces. That's part of being in a society. That's just, the way it works. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not making a value judgment. I'm just explaining to you what the law is, what the judge was saying.
JB Buno, Evan Donovan here with you live on WFLA Now. The latest for you on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. You can use hashtag KJB, hashtag Evan. There's some great comments and really questions about the impact, the ripple effect of this decision and what happens here going forward here in the state of Florida. Let's get to some of the comments here. I'll just kind of read the statements and then we'll kind of address your questions here. Hashtag KJB from Kelly Bernard. These parents are slightly delusional. There's dress code, vaccine mandates for school, etc., and you have some parents complaining about their child wearing a mask.
Let me jump in there. Okay. Kelly, that's a great comment, because the judge actually mentioned something like that and said, look, if you want to argue that you should be able to direct your kids' healthcare choices, a vaccination mandate, which already exists and has for decades, is way more intrusive on your child than a mask mandate. And those already exist within law. So, you can already see, Kelly's comment is spot on. There are places where you don't have the right to direct your child's healthcare decisions or other type of education decisions, and they've existed for years.
Sandy with a good question here. We're talking about impacts now. Hashtag AJB. It's only for that county, right? I don't know what county
incorrect.
she's right. I don't know what county she's talking about here, but maybe Hillsborough.
One of the counties involved or where the parents were. It's a good question, Sandy, but no, that is not correct.
She says, she continues, this doesn't go throughout the whole state. It does, since it was just an argument through that court. No, this is a statewide decision now, but this is a great question because I wanted to ask you about Pinellas County. Pinellas County didn't enact a mask mandate of any kind, but what impact does this have on Pinellas County versus Hillsborough, of course, defying DeSantis' wishes, really, with the mask mandate that they instituted for really just opting out for medical reasons.
one of now 9 counties in the state, which started with 2, Alachua,
Broward, Miami-Dade.
And now it's, started with those 2, Alachua and Broward, and now it's 9 counties that have defied the governor's executive order.
And could this open the floodgates for more?
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it might.
100%. But to your question specifically about Pinellas, all the order does is give the school districts the freedom to do this without, threat of any kind of loss of funding or, so he's basically saying the judge is enjoining the governor and any of its related agencies, the Department of Health, the Department of Ed, who all sit underneath the governor, from enforcing a blanket ban on mask mandates. So it frees up school districts to do what they want to do.
Let's get to the next comment and question coming in here. Everybody, thanks a lot, Sandy, for yours. And Manny, I really like this question here from Manny. Hashtag KJB. If for some reason a child will not wear a mask and contract the virus, are there any legal ramifications a parent can pursue? And same with a teacher. So Manny here is speaking about the school systems, Evan, in Florida that now have mask mandates here. And of course, talking about the judge's decision here and the impacts on those mask mandates. But if a student in school in Hillsborough, let's say, isn't wearing a mask and refuses to do so and doesn't have the medical opt-out that other students have, what can happen? How does a student do they get removed from school, or what do they do?
For some reason, a child will not wear a mask and contract the virus. Are there any legal ramifications a parent can pursue?
I guess are they asking, can you sue the parent of that child? Can you sue the school system for not enforcing?
You could
the
sue
mask
for whatever
mandate?
you want to.
You can sue anything. You can sue for anything.
But whether it will have any effect in court or whether or not you'll win is a totally different question. But that's a tough question.
The question is about enforcement, right? It's how school systems now and how teachers enforce mask mandates in schools. And really, I mean, this is something that's in Hillsborough, regardless of the decision today, has been going on in over the last several weeks in our schools since Hillsborough County put in, their mask mandate with opt-out only for medical reasons. So, Manny, it's a good question here. How about Brooke here? Brooke Elkins, #HJB. It's okay. There are still options for those who don't want to mask. Hillsborough virtual and Florida virtual or homeschool. Now, this is interesting. Students, or if there's a parent out there that is so emphatically against sending their child to school with a mask on, do they select, or do they even have the option for? Or they do. I mean, virtual or an at-home learning of some kind.
Here's the issue with that. I'm not sure what Brooke means with regard to Hillsborough virtual school. There's no more e-learning like there was last year in the same format.
Right.
There is Florida virtual school, which is its own thing. But I think it's only available now for flex classes. The ability to enroll in Florida virtual school full-time, I believe, the deadline has passed. However, don't forget that the governor and the state agencies, Department of Ed, expanded the Hope Scholarship, which is typically used for bullying, to enable kids who want to go to a school where there's a mask mandate or don't want to go to a school where there's a mask mandate, to use that Hope Scholarship to be able to go to a private school if they want to and take those state dollars, that funding with them.
Again.
So in terms of what the virtual options are, again, not sure what Brooke means exactly by Hillsborough Virtual School, because I don't believe that e-learning is an option in the same way that it was last year. The Florida Virtual School, which is its own thing entirely, is still available, but you may have missed the deadline.
We have 5 more minutes, folks, with WFLA political anchor Evan Donovan. A lot to get to here. Evan, how many days have you worked in a row? It's been
like 12 or something like that.
It's been a lot of long days for Evan as far as following every
It's all
word.
Good. This is important, and I know a lot of parents have been, putting in the time, trying to read studies, trying to keep their eyes on this. So, and I'm a parent myself, and my kids aren't school age. Really, they're, very young, but it's important.
Very important. And again, the latest for you folks on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, the Judge John Cooper ruling in part for the families in the school mask mandate trial.
Suing the school, suing the governor.
Yeah, it's important to specify
certainly there
that.
were families on the other side as well who testified and said their kids had, most of the families who testified for the defense on behalf of the governor, because most of them, their kids had medical issues, and the judge pointed them out too as well at the end of the trial in his verbal order, saying most of the families we heard from on the defense, all of them, I think he said, would and should qualify for a medical exemption.
We've covered DeSantis enough, Evan, you and I, that he wouldn't like the headline "Judge rules for parents" or "Judge rules for families," because he believes that this is a decision that ultimately takes power out of parents' hands and puts it in favor of local school boards across the state of Florida.
It's just shorthand for we're saying the parents that were suing him.
Right.
That's all we're trying to.
Yes, because
it's hard to write a headline.
No, yeah, it is. Parents that were filing suit against Governor DeSantis is pretty much
who we ruled for.
But sometimes you only have so many characters.
Exactly.
It's just the way of it. Sometimes you only have room for so many words here on your screen. How about, and again, 4 more minutes away from getting to your final poll results here. A lot of votes coming in here since we called for votes in our interactive poll. And wow, let's just read a portion of Keisha's comment here because it's a long one. #KJB. Yes, people who are upset, I understand they want to choose. However, I have a disabled child who can't go to school this year as per her doctors because of the increase of cases in school. She's on hospital homebound. DeSantis, please, no one wants to be on lockdown, but no one wants COVID to ruin their families. #Let's stop COVID. There's one thing that we're all in unison here as far as screaming from the rooftop. It's that we're sick of COVID. We want it to end, and we just want this all to be over. It would be really nice for there to be a major dip here in the next several weeks, but it's all about keeping kids safe, Evan. At the end of the day, this is all about all these discussions, all the comments here, everything should be centered around just keeping kids safe, and whether or not you believe that masks are the right way to go about it, or the wrong. The Delta variant, of course, we talk at great length here on WFLA Now with Masa Saidi, with Evan, others about the Delta variant, how the numbers that we're seeing here in Florida as far as escalating numbers, but especially between those younger than 19 years of age here, specifically in Florida. The hospitalizations that we have here across the state, our hospital ERs, they're filling up. Our COVID wings and hospitals across the state of Florida, they're filling up. So the numbers are troubling here. It's all about keeping kids safe. And also it's about keeping school staff members safe. We never forget about teachers here, folks, as far as that part of the equation. School doesn't exist without all the hard working teachers and staff that make school possible each and every day. And they're also stuck between a rock and a hard place as far as continuing education. There's no one that's going to say that in-person learning is inferior to learning from home or virtual learning. But again, all the decisions here revolving or should revolve around keeping kids safe. Let's get to a couple of more comments here, everybody, on WFLA Now, and then we'll get to our poll results here. Looking for hashtag KJB, hashtag KEvan comments here. And let's see. And there's a lot of people that feel very similar to Doreen here. Hashtag AJB, what happened to building antibodies through exposure? This pandemic will never end by masking up. What happened to parental rights? This is so wrong. We are losing our freedoms. And Evan, there's a lot of comments here online, and it's split. I would say there's that poll that we had earlier, 60-40. It's about that as far as the split in comments here, but a lot of folks feel the same way that Doreen does, and we're seeing comments similar to this one.
Yeah, it's a difficult issue, and I certainly understand why there are comments on both sides. I mean, I think that's what was really watching every moment of the trial, looking at all these exhibits, listening to all this testimony. There is debate. There's legitimate debate out there about whether or not, or about how effective masks are. I don't think there's really debate that they are somewhat effective for a number of different reasons. That's at least what the judge's finding was, and after listening to a lot of the debate, that's kind of what my result was, my takeaway. How effective they are, though, and whether or not that effectiveness outweighs any potential harms to children, different people around the world are interpreting those results differently. For example, the WHO, the World Health Organization, is not recommending masking of kids 2 to 5. And it says you should seriously consider any policy that would mask children 6 to 11. Any masking of kids 12 and up and adults, it is in favor of that. So there is a specific, I think there's the masking issue, which when it comes to adults and older children, it doesn't seem like it seems like the pushback there may be not as justified. But when it comes to the children, younger children below the age of 12, I think there is legitimate debate. And I think it's worth, for those of you at home, who may have some family members or some friends who are opposed to masking children that are younger than 12, I wouldn't dismiss them outright, because there is legitimate debate about this. Public Health England, for example, whom Dr. Jay Bhattacharya said was the gold standard in terms of the information that they're getting out of this public health agency. It's effectively like the CDC for England. They've decided not to mask children in schools in England. However, they've also adjusted some of that guidance and specifically pointed out that it depends on community spread. And remember, that's part of the issue here, folks, right? If there wasn't a serious Delta variant raging through the state right now, hospitalizing many more people and children than we've ever seen throughout the pandemic, overwhelming hospitals. That is the testimony we heard and the stories that we do every day here. Our hospitals are overwhelmed right now. Not to mention how the nurses and the doctors and the staff are overwhelmed. I can't even imagine after a year and a half of doing this. If that situation wasn't occurring in the community, whether to mask kids in schools would be a much easier question, right? Because it wouldn't be as necessary. So, and hopefully there are a lot of signs that the Delta variant is peaking right now in Florida, and that the cases may soon start to come down, and hospitalizations and deaths would follow in starting to come down. That's great news. And if that happens, then perhaps we won't need these mask mandates. And in fact, all of the mask mandates that have been issued so far in the 9 counties that have defied the governor are all 30, 60, maybe there's a 90-day one. I don't think so. I mean, they're all.
I know that there was 90-day ones being considered.
Yeah. But they're short. Okay. So the idea is, let's see what happens. If the situation 2-3 months from now is not as bad, maybe we don't need these. And I think you have to remember to put that into account. You could argue at points over the last month that Florida was the hotspot in the world for COVID right now. And so that changes the situation on the ground. And you can't forget that. Context matters.
I promised Evan I would get him out of here, folks, on time. He's got a lot to get to as far as everything coming your way on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, WFLA News Channel 8. As I promised, we have eclipsed 1,500 votes. We've doubled the amount of votes in our interactive poll from when we began this stream, and we've held firm. There are your live results here on screen. Do you agree with the judge's decision? 61% saying yes, 39% saying no. Evan, before we let you go, your reaction here to the poll results and where we go from here.
I think it's important to remember, it's because we do these a lot, we sort of know how things skew, and our results often typically skew to the right. So, for example, if we back during impeachments and whatnots, when we would do a lot of these things, we often had a lot of people who were in favor of President Trump, who sort of lean right, and that's fine. We love all the opinions here. It's just important to remember how that normally has shaken out when we do these polls. It is interesting to me, therefore, that it's 61% in agreement with the judge's decision and 39% against, because recent polling that we've seen in the state of Florida showed that 2 out of 3 parents were fine with mask mandates. And I think it's because, obviously people want to protect their kids. Some parents want that decision for themselves, but as we know, masks aren't as effective if not everybody is wearing them. So that's part of the reason why the judge decided that he thought the state law was not being enforced correctly, and that it gives the authority to school boards to make these decisions.
Again, 61 in favor of the judge's decision, 39% against. Evan Donovan here, folks, with us live on WFLA Now. I, for one, am going to be tuning in to the next Governor DeSantis press conference.
Oh, yeah.
What his reaction is here. And I was just looking at the schedule here, Evan. I don't see a press conferences with Governor DeSantis.
His daily schedule?
I mean, they pop up all the time. Yeah, maybe we could bring up his daily schedule here. I don't see any press releases for one of those pop-up press conferences that we normally get here. But perhaps we can look it up here really quickly to let folks know, because I'm really curious to see how DeSantis is going to react. He's clearly not going to be happy, but what he has to say as far as launching an appeal, and what he has to say as far as the argument that Judge Sean Cooper made there in his decision this morning. So let's see if we can actually get that pulled up here, because
I was just logging in to find it myself.
It's normal for Governor DeSantis to have 4, 5, 6 press conferences a week in a normal week. There sometimes he'll have 3, 4 a day, depending on his schedule here. And I don't see anything throughout the remainder of the day. Do you, Evan?
Let me see. Governor's press office.
Again,
this is his Thursday schedule. Sometimes you get the schedule at the end
advance
of the day, which is obviously not very helpful, but it is a matter of public record, which is why they always do send it. So yeah, I don't see anyone for today.
Yeah.
And perhaps he knew that he wanted to stay off the radar in case this didn't go his way. I don't know.
We'll see. Folks,
we'll hear from him at some point.
Keep it right here on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. If you're on Facebook Live, you can sign up for live notifications, just for notifications when we actually have live streams, so that you can see that, if it's Governor DeSantis speaking at a press conference here today, and then you get an alert on your phone that Governor DeSantis is going to be speaking, whether he's in Jacksonville or Tallahassee or Miami or here in Tampa Bay. And, of course, the very latest for you on WFLA.com and the WFLA app, the judge ruling in favor of the families that sued Governor DeSantis and the state in the school mask mandate trial that Evan has been covering all week long on WFLA News Channel 8 and WFLA.com. You'll catch the latest in our coverage tonight on WFLA News Channel 8, your NBC station 8 on your side here in Tampa Bay. If you're joining us from outside the Tampa Bay area, you want that coverage, it's on WFLA.com and the WFLA app.